lines and the boundaries of what could be done or what should be done, right? So I guess in that situation, a conflict is inevitable. You will always come to a head.
Yeah. So listening to this, see, you heard what happened. Now, Abraham is angry. I didn't start the conflict. Yes, you are presenting a solution. Now, I go and you listen from verse 21, and I want us to be particular about Sarah's language. Not sometimes we overlook the language. I want us to look at the language. Now, Prince is a lawyer, and Papa lawyer, read the language from verse 8.
That the child, so Genesis 21 verse 8, Hagar and Ishmael sent away. The child grew and was weaned, and Abram made a great feast on the day that Isaac was weaned. But Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abram, playing with her son Isaac. So she said to Abram, "Cast out this slave woman with her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not inherit along with my son Isaac." The matter was very distressing on account of his son. But God said to Abram, "Do not be distressed because of the boy and because of your slave woman. Whatever Sarah says to you, do as she tells you. For it is through Isaac that offspring shall be named after you."
Okay, let's leave it here.
Here.
We are talking about conflict and how we resolve some of the conflict. That's why I said today, I want us to look from within. It is not Abraham. For me, Abraham and Yaboni. Abraham and Yaboni. But the issue has come up, said. Now, Sarah is using something against her. Nanado, Leslie, I want you to help us here. Who can tell me the reason why Hagar wants the boy out of the house?
You mean Sarah?
Sarah Sarah wants the boy out of the house.
Yeah, and Hagar's son also being the firstborn is in line of more fatherly, I would say, not even favoritism, but him just naturally being the firstborn. He's going to be liked, he's going to be the leader, he's going to be basically everything that a first boy son at that time would have been. Yeah.
So are you getting where the issue is coming from? Sometimes when you
Hello?
Yeah.
Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, that's good. So I was saying that Sarah's ploy was not just to send Ishmael away, it was actually to completely disown him. So the language cast out is actually a language that is used to disinherit him, essentially, right? And probably she felt like if Ishmael was still in Abram's camp, because legally he was the firstborn. So the language was Abraham disowned him and sent him away, so he won't be competition for my son.
Hello, please come in. Yeah, please come again.
Oh, did you hear everything I said? I'm not sure if everyone heard.
Yeah, everyone heard but me. So if you could come back.
Okay, I was saying that the language that Sarah used, which is to cast him out, was actually language of disinheritance. So she was literally telling Abraham to completely disinherit Ishmael, and not just to disinherit him, but to send him away, in the sense that he wouldn't claim the law. He wouldn't use the law to lay claim. So basically disinherit him and remove him completely from the picture so he wouldn't be competition for my son.
Wow, this is serious. Conflict. Now, Abraham's son is being disinherited by his wife.
And God agrees too.
How do we solve this matter? Sometimes you are right in the relationship, but baby, I'm not quite so when I have trouble. No? How do we solve this matter?
German and cat.
Hello, Ara.
Father,
Pacho Kasa.
thank you. Pacho, before we answer the question now, beside just beside the CM. Me person who said, hey, Sarah didn't just get up to ask for the departure of Hagar and her son. Hagar was the one who triggered it.
Okay.
Hagar, uncle despising the mistress, uncle one pamono. Into Hagar, Sarah did not ask for Hagar to be sacked because of inheritance, by inheritance. Hagar and a court trigger a before a buyer. And as Sarah said, but if Hagar had respected
Sarah.
If Hagar had respected Sarah, yes, thank you, Auntie Lizzie. If Hagar had respected Sarah as she did earlier, I'm sure Ishmael would have inherited. Sarah wouldn't have done that bit.
Yeah. But today, what can I say? Now, I even want to raise an issue.
Okay.
No.
See, so we are talking conflict. So let me add more conflict to the conflict. Are you not sure? Are you not sure? Say, Fachem you a man here come once in you. Say, man, no, and we send the bar one anyim into a hinty ekahona or yes.
Yeah, she mistreated Hagar, and it's actually very clear in the text because Hagar started to despise her because of this.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though. We will
Please
just
read.
yeah,
read.
we will just be making assumptions, and I'm reading the exact point. Not
Yeah.
say he, which is Abraham, went into Hagar, and she conceived.
Yeah.
And when she saw that she had conceived, she looked with contempt on her mistress.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it was
Okay.
not Sarah who mistreated Hagar.
Yeah.
It
Because
was the other way around.
Because-
Okay, but it says look with contempt, not treated with contempt. Okay, so the language is not to treat with contempt, but to look with contempt, meaning Hagar was still powerless in the sense that, well, she was still a slave. She didn't have any elevated status. She was just her master's mistress, right? But then if you read the following text, Sarah responds in kind by actually mistreating her.
So Hagar looked with contempt. Sarah acted with contempt. Now, so between verse 16 and verse 21, it's not just 1 year or 2 years. Between verse 16 and verse 21 is actually 13 years.
13 years, yeah.
but
So, contempt at pregnancy, never left. The very moment she got pregnant, she remembers the contempt and says, my son will not inherit with the boy. I don't want us, if we go into this, we'll look at certain texts that will show, say, was a ma issue. We'll come back.
There is some reading here. We can read from 16 verse 4. No, say Hagar then started looking at her mistress with contempt. And then the mistress in the car say, may the wrong done to me be unto you. I gave my slave girl to embrace.
And when she saw,
which
means
means
brought that yow?
Which means Hagar so on say Hagar no in the status. Adeba commission say in a relationship biano say obi ehunu ne dabrea a critique issues. And also
it creates complex.
Obi ehunu like the role of player a critique issues. One says say free role more kwa ye obi ruler. And I say okoye obi ruler nipa no the responsibilities and the burdens, you know, also be willing to take up that and also so.
Yeah.
But me who say Hagar no eduru honum. I say well, who the dabri.
So let's let me play the devil's advocate. Let me play the devil's advocate. Don't mind me. Forgive me. I said let me add more conflict to the conflict. But this is not even the conflict we are discussing. We are discussing the conflict between the man and the woman. But the source of the conflict was a girl who bore a boy. Now, question. Mr. Question. Many women here have you've had been pregnant before. How is the pregnancy like? Nara, you will come back. You will come on very soon.
Mood swing.
Pregnancy. What is the attitude like?
Mood swings. Some people experience excessive mood swings.
No, you men, I don't want you to bring textbook. We have more women here. Please tell us. How is Nara? Yes.
Father, in terms of what? In terms of emotions or in terms of physical you carrying another human being or?
So we are looking at it vis-a-vis the text before us. So I'm just trying to raise eyebrows. Something that happened 13 years ago triggers an action 13 years after. But what did the nature say? And the man, if you listen to 13 years ago, before I can say this will be the second time a girl. The first time, girl she was mistreated and she ran away. The first time she was mistreated and she ran away. The second time, you catch the boss who said, now, listen to the charge on Abraham. The charge on Abraham is that why am I born? What has happened? How do you resolve that conflict?
You see, and it comes down to the whole idea of Sarah was always invoking laws, and when she gets in a bind, she didn't really take accountability for her role in there because Abraham never really proposed that idea. It was her idea, and then when things went awry, and he didn't even contribute to it. It doesn't, from the text, it doesn't seem like he did, but it was still his fault.
It was still his fault. It was still his fault because when you go to 21, when that is where I am drawing our whole discussion towards conflict resolution. A time may come in your life, you look at it critically and legally.
But Father,
Nara, you are going to say something. So when you finish, when he finishes, you will come in. Nara, where are you? Please, can you share your thoughts? It's not right here. Okay, Prince, go on.
Oh, sorry, Father. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Please go on.
The other gentleman partly mentioned what I was going to say, so at least he's covered. But what I want to say is,
Mhm.
I mean, at the end of the day, you asked a question about when you're pregnant. Yes, there's a lot of emotional imbalance. I mean, biological imbalance, obviously, even physically, when you are sleeping, to mean that you're tossing and turning. So it could be that, I mean, out of that, when Hagar even wakes up in the morning, she doesn't even feel like talking to her mistress or whatever it is. But
She
at the
might
end of the
tell them stress. She might even tell them, don't you see that I'm carrying your,
yes, she may have a part there, but
yes.
Is it Brother Prince? Is it Prince? No, the gentleman seated by you.
Leslie.
Leslie, I beg
That here is Prince.
Oh yeah.
yes,
online
Prince
is
talking about, I beg your pardon, yes. He mentioned something. You should know your boundaries. There's a proverb in tree. So when you travel in tone, how do you put it? Yes, when you travel in tone,
yes.
no matter, irrespective of your hormonal imbalance or your physical state or whatever it is, you should know that my madam.
Yeah.
And it's even like a privilege or something for my madam to have allowed me to have slept. I'm kind of saying for the use of a better, for want of a better expression. And then after you have
allowed side chick.
exactly after you have tasted of your madam's goodness, you now want to despise her for that. And no woman will take that. Every woman wants to be charge of her territory.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now,
yes, my dear.
You could also say that Hagar took advantage of her. She didn't do it because for her sake. She took advantage of her because she was a slave.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we can make all the excuses for Hagar, but at the end of the day, the bottom line is, I mean, we're trying to solve a problem here. What was the cause of the problem? We can't solve a conflict when you don't go back to the basis, the foundation of the conflict. If not,
which is Sarah instructing her husband to go sleep with Hagar. I think back then,
yes. So that
slaves were an honor. They were part of the household. So Abraham getting Hagar pregnant is a form of honor for Sarah herself because now they have children in the home. So Hagar did Sarah a favor.
Yes.
So, at the end of the day, if you're doing your madam a favor, are you the madam?
But Nara, the whole thing is Sarah can't have a child, so it's also a privilege, right?
So what Nara? Slow down. I told you I was adding more conflict to the conflict. So let me. I want us to look at it from this angle. Sometimes in your relationship, what kind of say? Wouldn't be fall. You are not at fault. But for some reason, how do you deal with it? And that is where I want us to draw the discussion to.
Okay.
Joyce, no, sir.
I mean, who knows the Hagar son? No, Abraham, why two akokra for her, but no. On them do slaves just went to man can know. Maybe an anosun can unpack because be in a why akokra. But interesting to no door yet.
Abraham saw it, or don't can ordering kakra.
At the end of the day, or your slave.
Mommy.
Small girl like you, if your mistress is telling you guys sleeping about, they you have gone to.
She invoked the law. She
Abraham. Abraham, nice guy.
That all that is.
What do you mean, Nara? That is an abuse of power. Abraham and Sarah abused their power. They abused Hagar.
Okay. Yes. You see, we can
Abraham, no, or don't go drink with Chirikakra and son of why.
So the issue is the reality was it was something that is done. In fact, Abraham and Jacob Yebi and when Rachel realized that she was not giving birth, or the man more way. So it was something that it was a legal thing. Now they say Sarah was always invoking legal whatever. But then, I want us to jump to 20. Now, and some Sarah, say when the year came, Abraham and said, and until this was an Abraham and him. But the issue is, how are we resolving those issues?
Father, may I jump in here?
Yes.
It again boils down back to the respective roles or the respective statuses in said relationship. Because you did mention something, say, I don't know, you wouldn't pass out the radiant, would did bim.
Yeah.
And so you can't say crown ponua.
Church,
because ye maudi bema etiamra. Enti oye den e wo se ukodi den ukodi for na de wo se ebem die no e komano no e komano.
We'll get there,
which will create another conflict on its own. But sana identity. So my father used to say something or say, yeah, power pum no, yes, it's
yes.
So sometimes you may be right, you are 100% right in whatever that's transpiring. Now, so you need to sometimes just swallow the bitter pill for a subsequent occurrence, able to exonerate to near
where
assembly free ba.
Okay, you be drew. Yeah, on here when you be drew. Yes, Leslie.
I want to disagree a bit because what Sarah was asking of Abraham was also illegal. It was actually a violation of their humanity, because to cast them out in people don't seem to imagine what it was like in the ancient world. There were no police officers, there was no torture, there was no taxi, there was nothing of the sort. So by casting the both of them out, essentially they're going to be stranded in the desert, and they're probably most likely going to die.
It actually happened. It actually happened. Yeah.
Right. So it was literally a death sentence for Hagar and her child. Right. So I kind of understand where Abraham would have come from, because Abraham was probably very, very, very troubled about it. And that was why he got into
troubled. So when we go to, Leslie, to add to your point, when you go to verse 21, you realize that Abraham did not agree. Abraham did not agree. Now, that's where I want us to bring the discussion to. And Sembisi will fear and Kawudi Bem, but it doesn't work. You know, Udibem, but it doesn't work. So what are we actually looking at? There's always the need to understand a certain big picture. In relationships, if we do not understand the big picture, we always fight over the minute things. I'm talking about conflict resolution. I mean, we looked at the story where you can say you come to Sarah, we can open it up so much. Now we'll start laying blames like we do today. But let's fast forward to what happened. That is why I said, when we read Genesis chapter 21, Patrick, if you could read for us again, if someone could read Genesis chapter 21 from verse 8 to 13.
So Genesis 21 verse 8 to 13. The child grew and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast on the day Isaac was weaned. But Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had born to Abraham, playing with her son Isaac. So he said to Abraham, cast out this slave woman with her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not inherit along with my son Isaac. The matter was very distressing to Abraham on the account of his son. But God said to Abraham, do not be distressed because of the boy and because of your slave woman. Whatever Sarah says to you, do as she tells you, for it is through Isaac that offspring shall be named after you. 13. As for the son of the slave woman, I will make a nation for him also, because he is your offspring.
Thank you. We are talking about conflict.
Actually learned something right there.
Father,
Yes, my dear.
please, before we attempt to resolve the issue, we added more conflict to the conflict. Please, can we look at verse 9 again?
Verse 9, yeah.
Yes, please, 21 verse 9.
I think I see where she's going. Yeah.
And then conflict one and
It will resolve it. Thank you.
But Sarah saw the son of Hagar the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, playing with her son Isaac. So she said to Abraham,
verse 9.
I said 9, number 1
verse 9. That's
9 21 verse 9.
But Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, playing with her son Isaac.
Okay, my version, I'm using the New King James Version. It says, and Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian, whom she had borne to Abraham, scoffing. What is the meaning of scoffing?
So you are using Abraham's Abraham's ocean and yeah.
Exactly. And to start with, Sarah says Sarah the name of Boniachem from 16. So Pamon song or go soon good and the Sunni Sansan Chibai. Wabe na wabe why the Yamia say, ya so was from dream. Na who your bar papa, over 2 banofo. Say me ba, Mr. Onidina Hubasim. Behave. Because here muna ya bon ofia inti me pato dwa ho ye akolapa na wo ba no scoffing mentia so de mama ko so abro for mon kam scoffing as chesen e ka so bi scoffia as chesen scoffing na scoffing no akọ kanja bi pato what you say akọ kan
what kind of yaw bi
very good. That is what I want to say. Internet.
Mommy, yeah, we know one of course. Yes,
exactly. And it's normal for siblings to do these things. They are normal.
Yeah.
Normal. Nara, normal.
Delicate, but what they show Abrewa Bintumenwo. Na me made Alanga Joani who is in Hoso. Me kuna kokoya ni mema ye varieties.
Yes.
Na emrane kire say me yiri betumi apia obi ama me no wapi make say de obekire me wa bebie ni o me bi so akire madwini nyina abodam.
Yeah.
And I'm also me the me titi me hugu me madam so because they won't mean ye man me my kra didi aka ho. E james no kra shin more. And I was to chamber ho ni hu. Me ka say de course bia sarati enti ahye ne dada. Adeni shini mu. Assembly delicate.
Slow down. Let's slow down. I thank God that now we've gotten the magnitude of the conflict.
Yes.
We've gotten the magnitude of the conflict. We've been reading Genesis chapter 15. Now we are reading Genesis chapter 21 from verse 8 down. Now, I want us to look at the big picture, the story. Sometimes when conflicts come, we don't look at the big picture. What is the big picture? Now, the big picture, God said something about the big picture when it got to God. Because Abraham was so distressed that, see, God did not just come. Abraham took the matter to God. Because 13 years ago, if you read verse 15, Sarah said, and I'm sure some of us, we say it. Now, Abraham this time took the matter to court and said, God, asama ekosu meni mushi o meni aboni o. Emra ewo ho na Sarah akoyiaba. Akwara no kurampo no, is she supposed to be Sarah ba? But they are all ye dear. My son, me 100 years. My first born was 13 years. My second born, I feel already by 3 years. This is the magnitude of the matter. Sometimes in your own home, you don't know what to do, and you take the matter to court. But I want us to look at two things. Now, God will bring the big picture out. But before that, I want Brains to read something for us.
I see it.
Read verse 9, and before you read verse 9, read what Sarah says. What Sarah says in verse 9. And let's
Sarah said,
start from verse 9. Whatever. Yeah, verse 9.
So, but Sarah saw the son of Hagar.
Verse 9 to 11.
9 to 11. But Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian woman, whom she had born to Abraham, playing with her son Isaac. So she said to Abraham, cast out this slave woman with her son, for the son of this slave woman shall not inherit along with my son.
Slow down, slow down. Do you hear the language of Sarah? Hello?
Hi.
Do you hear what words, is that adjective or whatever he's using for
Adjective.
Isaac? What's it say?
The son of the slave
woman.
The son of the slave woman, the boy, a son. When you go to verse 15, is that what Sarah said?
Verse 15.
There be chapter 15.
Chapter 15.
Sarah said, maybe my slave girl will bear for me.
For me.
A child. I didn't know son. Go on to verse 11.
Verse 11.
I'm talking about something. I'm
the
building.
matter was distressing to Abraham on account of his son.
Okay. On account of
his son.
Slow down. Do you hear difference in the language in the talk today? What do you hear?
The Bible is describing Ishmael as Abraham's son. But Sarah is describing Ishmael as the son of the slave woman.
No. Okay, that's to some extent right. The first from 16, she said she will bear me a son, which means Sarah was claiming the child for herself.
That was the law. That is the law.
That's the law.
That was the law.
It has
The
changed.
law is when your slave gives birth to you,
Exactly.
Now let's look at verse 20.
Yes, now her narrative has changed from Hagar's son being her son to Abraham's son. As a son of a slave woman and Abraham's son. Exactly.
Are you getting where I'm driving the whole?
Yes.
Yeah.
And this proves Nanado's point that Sarah uses the law to her advantage, but when it comes to taking responsibility, then the law no longer comes into play.
I'm quite square. Second, you're open saying Kabibia be Inaka Higano. Asa kutukutuaman, but Higano so unibao. Mama ubi. I say, so say me no, we'll see it to me treat here. Make Abraham crowd kumujako will track and say Kraboma Higa.
Hey, who knows Abraham? Isaac. Because Isaac no enough on the penny ball with you.
For a long time. That's true.
Yeah. You know,
and or the first son. That's it. Now, the issue is that what I'm trying to raise is that when conflict arises, first of all, ask yourself, what boundaries do I set? When you don't set boundaries, conflict will arise. And when they arise, you need to be responsible for those conflicts. Hello?
Hi.
So you are looking, that's why we went to the source. The source of the matter was that Abraham allowed Sarah to set the boundaries. And so Sarah could dictate what I call the boundary. So one set the boundary be now. Relationship no conflict.
In law, we call it the law of specific performance.
Specific performance. The law of specific performance. Naturally, say, if you don't play those specific itemized labeled roles, no contract no crack could be nullified. Hello, everything for. It is a conflict bar. Bisa say, do I have boundaries or it is open for all? Or did someone else set the boundaries? Because the person who set the boundaries could dictate the boundary. Hello?
Hi.
Hi.
Am I making sense here? And we are talking about relationships. Many men can't chima woho. Asembia is okay. Asembia is okay. And adako asema waka is okay with them. Wako kan wa bonting. Do I have a right to reprimand the person? Hello? Meaning asema Americano if it's making sense. Now, once you set boundaries or not, you should be accountable for those actions. Unim se akwanya mitri bra ya na sister ya minini tu kwanya ni subaye no ebeja ya kwantimfi. When you take the person there and you feel na akwabompa. Oh, I don't know if you are getting where I'm going to.
I hear you.
Hello?
Hi.
Bra no ameneno ni subai binti adie bi o ameya e wo se me di biribi hyase. This has not got anything to do with love. Hey. Me yes I am me frizo. Yes I am my boss of you. Hey. I was saying I don't know if you are getting where we are driving it to. I love my woman. But I need to set boundaries. For you good. I didn't set the boundaries. And I done it trouble. Who should bail the cat? Any contributions, any questions before we go on to the next one?
Yes, okay. I had a bit of addition for what the previous lady was saying about the playing part. I sort of disagree with that translation, and I disagree for several reasons.
Okay.
It's that in most cases that the root Hebrew word, I think it's the hawk, is used. It's actually to play, like sporty play, like how boys play.
Boys will play.
Rough housing, yes. So I think Sarah's theme that made her feel like, okay, and yes, Ishmael and then on that level, essentially, right? So
Sarah reduced Ishmael to a slave status just as Nemame. But technically, Ishmael was not a slave. Omami may be an immigrant in America, in Canada, but when you are born here, you are no longer an immigrant. That is why, yes, that is why I was talking about boundaries. Leslie, please continue.
Right. So in that sense, Ishmael was just roughhousing with Isaac, and he would probably have been old enough to do. That's what boys do anyway, right? So I think that the translation should have actually read playing with or jesting with or making sports, to sporting with, essentially like how boys play. And it kind of triggered her that you're a slave, you shouldn't be playing with my son. My son is going to be the future head of house. So by so doing, she just wanted to reduce Ishmael's station, which is why she kind of emphasized that Ishmael was the son of a slave.
Yes. So today I don't want us to concentrate too much on the cause, whatever. Later on we can look at that. But I'm talking about how to resolve it. And one of the ways of looking at it is beginning with, let's look at the source. Did I set boundaries for myself? What was Abraham's boundaries? Who was the primary figure at the boundaries? Man set boundaries now. I should be accountable for my actions. And that is what God did. That is what God did. Wouldn't it for you did something out of a good heart for somebody who does not carry gratitude. Nani pakrone robbing in your face. The other time Jesus says, don't throw your pearls before swine. What does it mean? If you throw your pearls before swine, what will happen is that they will play with it, whether you like it or not.
They don't even know the value of it.
They don't know the value. And so once they have done that, sometimes you don't even need to fight back. Collect your pearls, clean them, and don't give it back to them. That's where I'm getting to. When we have not set boundaries, what happened?
It's there, still there.
Okay. When we have not set boundaries. And so today I am inviting all of us to look at ourselves again and put boundaries together. I'm not saying kofa break walls and iron walls, but there are certain things we need to kakra. This is what I mean by what I said, and live by your actions. Any comments, any questions, any contributions, please? Eva, we've not heard of you. We know you are at work. We know you have a lot to say. Raymond, Comfort, Gina, yes. Camils, Araba, Mama Vicky. Any contributions, any questions? Hello? Where's Nara?
All right.
Is Belinda here? Belinda, I'm not hearing from you.
I'm here.
Yeah, I'm not hearing from you again. So with all the conflict, in resolving some of these things, we need to ask ourselves, am I accountable? Should I take account for what happened? Did I set boundaries so that I know this is what I said and I couldn't do? Or did I leave it aloof so that whatever happens, then I'm liable to that? Hello?
Yeah.
Any questions?
Self-accountability
Yeah.
contributes to the arising of said conflict is crucial.
And so when they do,
how do we address it? Do we
First-
then look within to see, okay, good, did I set the boundaries or was it due to my lack of setting of boundaries that may have contributed to the exacerbation of the conflict?
so that you can be accountable.
So accountability.
I'm talking about when you understand what it is and you start becoming accountable for it. Now, whatever responses you can give
will mimic your accountability.
Exactly. The reaction
okay.
to,
I get it.
The reaction to begin with me. Me ma ho kwan se we yinsi. Se mama ho kwan dia, then this is my action. This should be my reaction. Mama ho kwan, what are my boundaries? Should I enforce my boundaries? And when I do enforce my boundaries, everybody would know this is me. Any contributions, any questions?
If I hear correctly,
no, you shouldn't.
I get it.
And I'm talking about both parties in a relationship.
Please, with the Bernard Mububu, we need some explanation here.
So basically, so basically, you are trying to enforce some boundaries, which will be your rights. But then, did you even set the boundaries to begin with?
So you should have evidence for what you said you did.
Okay, thank you.
Put
Come
two
on,
minutes.
West, we don't.
So
Oh,
if you're saying something, you should show where it's coming from.
So the literal translation is, mushrooms. Mushrooms actually, back in Ghana, mushrooms grow on heap of sand.
Sand. Heaps.
So,
right,
back in the day, you cannot just go into someone else's farm, or you cannot just plug mushrooms and just come show that I have mushrooms. You need to show where you
maybe it's in somebody's farm.
Maybe it's in somebody's farm.
Yeah. Leslie, you agree? Say something.
That's where it comes from.
I was saying what I was saying was most of the time a lot of us don't even know what our boundaries are. What I mean by we don't know what our boundaries are, we don't know what are deal breakers for us essentially. It's not until right. So it's not until you start experiencing these things from your partner that, okay, in hindsight, okay, maybe this should have been discussed, or maybe this, but and I think it's the reality of a lot of people in a lot of relationships is that we don't anticipate that the relationship would take a certain turn based on the actions of the other. So even though there's probably the expectation, right? Most of the time, we don't even know what to expect to begin with from the other partner.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we're actually blinded by circumstances that we fail to see to even set the boundaries. Taking it back to Sarah and Abraham.
Issue.
Because yes, I want him, man. I say Sarah no person you be ma. I say rectify issue into one. Now you know who crump say be one hega crab benya.
And Abraham also did not look at the repercussions that could happen. So, like you said, many a times we are blinded by circumstances. Nagel we. Father,
I want to say something.
Yes, bro.
I also think we underestimate our tolerance level. I think we see issues and we believe that, this is okay. I can deal with it now. But I think we don't think of long term. If this issue is to persist, will I be able to have that same level of tolerance? And that's where the conflict comes from, because that's when we realize that, we underestimated how much tolerance we actually have. Yeah. And I think for the most part, for like when you're about to get married and you meet someone, you see those red flags, but then you don't ask yourself, okay, can I live with this on a daily basis? And
for
then
the next 5
for the
years,
moment, it's like, for the moment we're like, this is okay. But then once you start seeing it every single day, you're like, man, my goodness.
That's it. And so when it happens like that, so I'm drawing it to the fact that when it so happens, be accountable for your actions, or inactions. We should be accountable. And I always say that I have stopped this 31st night resolution. But in your personal life, sit down and ask yourself, I do this on my birthday. Inside you. For the next phase of my life, I don't want somebody like this in my life. And you need to find a way of getting the person out, because whatever you do, you should be responsible for your actions or inactions, for your boundary or the boundaries you did not put up. Now, that was the solution God gave to Abraham. And Abraham understood that he left it aloof. We will come there very soon. But before that, any contributions, any further questions? Nara, Belinda Menteunka, Auntie Vicky, yeah. Any other contributions? Araba, you want to share something? Conflict resolution. Somebody, I'm sure people. For me, we've done that many years, and has it worked? It is important that say, did I set boundaries? If I set the boundaries, what were the rules of my boundaries? What should I do? If I did not set boundaries, that means I even perpetuated in that act. Now, we cannot say we cannot recuse Abraham from this. He was an active player. So you will hear what God says. Because God will let him know.
So you listen to your wife, go and do what she wants.
That's it.
Exactly.
And again, it's reminiscent of exactly what happened between Adam,
Yes.
right? Adam
Adam-
and Eve.
Yes.
Because you listen to your wife, and it seems there's a recurring theme. There's a recurring theme that most of the time we allow people to have undue influence, and there are no clear-cut, what should I call, roles. And I know a lot of women would probably get up in arms when I say that every organization, especially families, need a head, need a leader. And when the man says, or sometimes when the man wants to discipline the children, basically, so it's kind of like they kind of take away like, sort of like there's responsibility but no authority, essentially. So in Sarah's case, she literally took the authority away from Abraham to decide whether he was going to go through with it or not, because she invoked the law, as I said, and she continues to invoke laws throughout.
Let's raise another issue, please. I want you to read verse, is it 11? What God says, verse 12.
12. But God said to Abraham, do not be distressed because of the boy and because of the slave woman. Whatever Sarah says to you, do as she tells you.
13.
For it is through Isaac that offspring shall be named after you. As for the son of the slave woman, I will make a nation of him also, because he is your offspring.
So when conflicts arise, before we fight, when we start looking at our boundaries and we start taking account for our boundaries, we need to ask ourselves, what is the big picture? More often than not, we get the big picture when we are calm, when we go to God. What is the big picture? God showed Abraham two things here. God showed Abraham, I did not authorize this action. So when your boss says, the one who gave you the woman says, take the woman out, I don't have anything to say. That is why it is imperative to understand, to appreciate, and to know the repercussions when we are listening to people. Nana just said, God said, because you listen to your wife, to Adam. God said, you listen to your wife, Abraham. There are repercussions. What God didn't sanction, he doesn't untie. Let me repeat. Onyame anhyehyɛ. The trouble, brewa, it is not him who is. We see it here. God, Abraham is God's friend. God says, listen to your wife. Why? Because I did not give her to you. A pastor friend told me, you church people, you have a big problem. Anybody, somebody brings, you marry. Do you ask, is it what God has joined together? Many of the marriages, we join together and represent to God, and God says, okay, then he's looking. And we become bound to the repercussions of what we collected and took to God by circumstances. So God told Abraham, the one who gave you the boy says, the girl says, I don't want the boy, the girl, and a product. So listen to her. Now God gave the picture. He says that, but it is through Isaac that nations will be named after you. The big picture. Sometimes we fight the details and we cry we've lost the big picture.
So, Father Togo, nature say, ne was saying Sarah ne Abraham womo train.
That's it.
And a woman train Sarah de epre no hode higa komano.
When you can read verse 15. Now onyamia beka Abraham said, "Wa wasinimuba your own from children from your own loins." And Sarah took it as God spoke to you, not me. Yes, Leslie wanted to say something.
Even after the fact, when the angels visited Abraham, when Lot emigrated to Sodom, Gomorrah, the angels also came and basically reiterated the promise, and it shows the attitude of Sarah because she scoffed. Now that is the real that is the real scoffing, because she didn't think that I mean, I'm too old to have kids anyway. I don't even enjoy intimacy anymore, right? So it kind of it's reminiscent of Sarah's mindset that she had let it go. She's not gonna have any kids, and that's it. Whatever God says, yeah, it'll
Was for
come or it
Abraham.
will not come. Yeah.
Yeah. So I want us to look at sometimes when we are taking decisions, let's look at the big picture. Jenna said something. Sometimes, Jenna, what did you say? Your tolerance level. Sometimes we don't look at the big picture. Girl no already girl you tie CD. We forget, we look down on the hot temper. Or guy and he drives a good car, he does a good work. We forget that the guy who is a neat freak cannot stand you and who are we carefree. Are you getting the point? We don't look at the big picture. Obi wa hwe no akwa shia boy na fine ofre busia papa mu na busia fo wosika, and they forget that busia fo mo wosika mu yedwe. Are you able to deal with insolent in-laws?
The scoffing.
That's it. The big picture. Now, when we understand the big picture, we are able to resolve conflict even within ourselves before we resolve the conflict with other people.
Because then I said that.
That's it.
Yes, yeah, I get it.
Boundaries.
I get it.
And big picture. Oh, I don't know if I'm ministering to somebody. Boundaries and big picture. If I didn't set the boundaries, one set it, so if there are repercussions, be accountable for them. If I set the boundaries, then I need to lawyer for more trigger the repercussions that come with breaking of the boundaries.
Initiation of chain of causation.
Mm-hmm. 2, what is the big picture? Maybe onyame pesa adie we isi mami ontisao sister yontisa na eye die na ama ne kasa say. Then you start looking at the big picture. Ana maye bibi. Are you getting the point? My wife is not like this. My girl is not like this. So what has happened? The big picture, not the minute detail.
Right.
So even though you are right in this case, big picture, now your rightness today actually brought back 13 years ago a trend. So but looking at the big picture, oh, I don't know if I'm confusing you. Any comments, any questions? We are almost at 9.
I have a question for the ladies.
And the ladies, when I say,
please, is it true that you can remember or recollect things that happened decades and bring it back in an argument much later? I mean, I want to understand how your mind works, how you think about things, because the way you probably interact with life and people is different from the way men do. So I just want to understand.
Nara, Mama Vicky.
I think the question is funny.
Mama Vicky, please come in.
Father, please, what was the
Hello.
question?
Now, let the question one to you. Meaning, say, what's here also answer? She said, Mama Vicky, please let me explain to her. She said, Nanado wants to understand, is it true that women can take some issue that came from a long time ago and bring it into a current argument? How does it work?
Oh, yes, Father. Oh, yes.
Mama Vic is first. Mama Vic, we are Evelyn, Baba. Now remember. Yes, Mama Vic.
Thank you very much, Father. Just to answer the gentleman's question. The way God in his infinite wisdom created women, we are such a complex system itself. So
Chairman.
to answer him, my NC 50 years ago, we can still refer you. If we don't fall in line, we will refer you. Yeah.
When you fall out of line, we'll bring you back.
When you fall out of line, now we will bring you in and redirect. Yeah. Mono ememano momo de no sene nyame si bom no. Sometimes na Bible amaya who say ye fi momfe pade ni bem say momfe pade pa no ena nyame de boy mum. Yeah, we can actually refer you. So I hope you understand. We are really made different, despite the fact that we came from you.
I understand. Okay, so I want to ask, do you think that it helps in conflict resolution or it tends to make it worse? And under what circumstances do you think these things happen when you do the referral?
Your questions are now like essay questions.
Can I answer?
Maybe 20 points. Yes.
I may not be. I'm not a woman, but I can answer your question.
Now, answer was so Gina was laughing, so I'm sure you can.
Yes. Me pacho. Emma, yes. Because there's a proverb which we say, "Bibi I go papa in the trade." Say in
of a course.
Yes, there's a course. David Christ, there was that. Is that not a course? There's a course. Yes. Sometimes I will say in conflict resolution in marriages, let it go. Let it go. But at the end of the day, sometimes we let it go. The lipanim pefe say this is what triggers conflict, and he or she will keep on punching you and letting that trigger come, that trigger. It gets to a point, like we said earlier, we all have a point of elasticity or whatever. Until nipa was stretching elastic, was stretching because we're not take. At that point, then people think, say, oh, get away or try say more or yourself, but that partner on him said, this is what triggers. This is what triggers that response. Into what name partner, like you've been saying, knowledge. In fact, Gina mentioned it this before we started, during we had a discussion before we started officially. Say, you should know your partner. You should have knowledge. This is what will trigger the bad part of her or the negative part of her. And now, we our culture several times said, stop it. But yet, and one of the beer obey, and one of the beer bent do baby, and I say, let's go. And that is the tipping point of Arsenal kind. That tipping point, not been nothing.
Friends come in and then Gina comes in. Hey, bro 9. Yeah.
Just bad here, but this is something I've come to understand. And I am bahu. I've not been married for long. I've only been married for 5 years now. But having lived with me mama, sa adiri, and we say it has caused me a lot of trouble.
When
just my face has caused me a lot of trouble. And why am I saying that? I speak like my father. I look like my father. But it's rather unfortunate the relationship between the two didn't go well. So even if say asema make a crampo say enye asembo ne crampo na a trigger me mame over 40 years ago, assemble a see or name papa and and she will refer me. She will refer me and tell me.
Is that what this?
She will refer me into details. But then again, you ask yourself, when you are in a relationship, what is more important, to be right or to have the relationship
Going.
grow in a way that the asumdue beba? Do you want to be right? And I said, do you want it to grow? And that's where another window, another door gets open, which is forgiveness. To me, personally. So be a madiana shemia. Me jina ho. Nipa na oye madiana. How is the relationship between me and you? Do I want this relationship? Say if I want the relationship, asem na odi me no. Whatever trigger the baby no, say trigger nimpoba, I ignore it. Because me who say me kase me pay heed to the trigger na, me know relationship
the best say.
And sometimes and yet trigger bia na yet trigger bia obu on ma e bia me wadamfo bi or say or catch any point say yet dining table ni ye didi a mesrew say aduane ne hye wonum a e bie wonum enkasa sad no mempe or catch any no. But ne say you cannot teach old dog new tricks. So every time Biana or Beman Pocofa seminar, not a trigger or bano, as Obani feels say, Beman is
Sheneso. Yeah.
Beman also say, Ubi wenum kasami edempe. So now we then go into the nitty-gritty of what the vehemence of that trigger. No. I don't even want to talk about the validity of the trigger. So say depending on the relationship ni hiamia waka
Mate.
Asem na no. So enti say ebi obika say emba the nyoma show when you say bi omodi no people choose, you can choose. And I don't think say emba nko even cry emba
cry yeah.
Emma cry to me the nyoma show.
Yeah.
So I don't think say it's accustomed to and I say it's restricted to emba nko. Members the nyoma show we just say we may not say it because Tobe ni ana
mema
ni a trust, but that doesn't mean say you fan your man shame. You the new machine, but oba de be oba voicing it out.
Yeah.
So it's not really a oba subai a nipa
subai, but a man elevating them more.
But say nipa in relationship ni nyanwa.
Very true. Man, even worse.
So relationship ni oh no, and she has a point. She has a point because I can't remember when I was living in Germany. There was this couple, they used to come to me Uncle Bako for counseling. My papa ne can no, my many can't see me papa no or was some quote we are no Colombo.
Colombo. The quote
Nibi. It's my many catching the crib 25 years ago. No catching say. Oh, I saw munya akasaka no catching. Why you quote to say Colombo quote? I didn't see my papa. Yeah, so munya sempe no
because Colombo.
Enya
man yeah.
Memo the necessary.
A shenepa aloke aka. Yeah. Mama Vicky, please come in. Ekua talking about experience, and it's true. When a man decides not to forget something, yeah.
But say relationship
he works it. Yeah. Mama Vicky.
Father, Pacho, yenya bema ya sema okay nyina eye no kreba unim e man kasa no as much as mosi ye so asemu a etona bi nso aye duabo hwe maami ya wusi wodidi ya eni kunu semu won kase ideally and realistically who didi na kasa kra wan hwe ya watwoku enti di ene kasa no so dem echen enti ena a choice send your walk on to be very frank and enya manko ena twensem bai ekoyemu emema ni bi so kra de chese mama me mama typical example me so me mama example hwe minim be ma bi a wono no sebi my body say wo yi a obeyi agusink mu aye ni say basa so koye bibi kitwa bi a wo de ne de obeka oh enso so ba bi wo ho a me meyi mani Ba me de obeka. Na eba ne saa anye bibia ne be throw no under the bridge. Bridge ne bebu. Enti na was se me kasa. So de me trem. Na was se me ka. Enti eye choice. And it's not how you will handle it, it's not how you, but the way you say it. Sometimes I send you a while. Ubeka enye bufoso. So obi beka na ache say bridge na nya adwira gukura awie. Nti ye nyina ye mfantu ye hofo.
Thank you. Eva, you raise your hands.
I think she just said it. It's that's why I put my hands back down. It's how you deliver the message. It's the delivering of the message that caused the issue, because there are some things that you will say it, even though the person might not like it, but the way you deliver it, they will, the reception of it will be different. So that's what I wanted to say.
Yeah. Thank you very much. For today, well, yes,
Father,
yes.
I have one thing to say. Nanado asked if it was beneficial to bring the past.
Things
and
you're
so I was going to say, in certain instances, it is extremely important to establish a pattern in the relationship, because sometimes like a spouse may be doing something and may be unaware that this has been going on. And so establishing that this has been going on over time, I think will helps the other spouse see. So, oh, okay. Now maybe I can better understand where your anger comes from. But it depends on the circumstances and how important this situation is.
The situation is, how important the relationship is. And let me add the one last thing, how we even say it or deliver it. We've been talking about conflict resolution, and we're looking at it from another angle altogether. Now, coming from within us, not always looking at the party outside. I talked about boundaries, and I pray that in our visiting our relationship issues, let's look at boundaries. What boundaries do we have for ourselves? Only girls. And so when we look at it closely, the people you even talk to are girls, and you say that and you say that we need to set boundaries. If the relationship boundaries, if you left the relationship, a judge friend from Ghana told me something. She's a woman, and she says, Father, Emema, she said she had resolved so many marriages, maybe more than the marriages she's contracted. And she says that one thing that keeps coming is that most of the people didn't set boundaries. And now they want to say that, look, you are going over the board. And the corporates ask them, what is the boundary? What is the boundary? She says that, I somehow can odibimpa, but Omaho Kwema at the end of course about 2-3 years. Now pay a pattern when you feel, and now all can 1-7. Obana say, now dear way 2 years ago, me and I better answer. And we need to look at those very critically. Boundaries. And then when we know those boundaries, my issue is that we should be accountable. In resolving the issues, we should be accountable. Abraham kept quiet after God opened his eye to the boundaries he didn't set. He just shut up. So be accountable for your actions. Finish. 2, let's look at the big picture. I like a phrase you use. It's a relationship. Sometimes we want to do argumental and win. Master, you win, and what the Papa Bina was saying.
Ego.
Assembly be through a numbiana what can because Obia ye bibia manayoya. One day Mongi will go market and never go return. The big picture. Can I live with this woman? If you cannot live with him, there be a same way. Don't stay in that relationship, endure that relationship. Somebody says, Father, I say, man, okay. No, living in a relationship that you are always crying, always talking, always insulting, always maligning, always backbiting. In that relationship to the same person, what would happen? And what? You are a hypocrite. And hypocrites don't go to heaven, true or false?
True.
What am I trying to say? Let's look at the big picture. Let's look at the big picture. If the relationship is valuable for me, let's find ways of resolving the issue. Abraham understood. And one day, let me just do a summary. When you look at how Abraham was buried, you come to understand that Abraham did not give up on Ishmael. Mm-hmm. When you go to Genesis chapter somewhere, Bible say, and Isaac and Ishmael buried their father, Abraham. What happened? Say Abraham and Isaac, Ishmael. Would you think Ishmael? Papa. In fact, some scholars are even insinuating that Abraham married Hagar again. The woman who was named Keturah, they said when they went to live in that area, she changed her name. Forgive me, I don't have any backing things. I'm just talking about some historians arguing. Because Keturah was a black girl. And Abraham gave birth to 6 more black children. For me, when we are today, I would just want us to draw our attention to, in our resolving of conflict, let's look from within first. From within. And more often than not, when we look from within, we have the solutions instead of pointing hands and laying blames. God bless you. Any final comments or questions?
Genesis 25, 9 and 10.
Oh my God. I thought you were at work. Genesis chapter 25, verse 9 and 10. Please read for us. So verse 9, from verse 9. His sons,
oh yeah, they buried him.
Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Mecca. Hey, Nana, do we the honor Bebo?
Machpelah.
Okay.
Machpelah.
In the field of Ephron, son of Zohar, the Hittite, east of Mamre, the field that Abraham purchased from the Hittites. Abraham was buried with his wife Sarah. Amen.
Amen.
We realize that Abraham did not even me sure said there were some connections and that, and yeah. Any questions? Any comments? We are 19 minutes into 9, and I pray that when there are conflicts at home, look within yourself. Look within yourself first. Look at the big picture. Is the big picture going to help you? If it's not going to help you, look within yourself and see how. Most of the time, the issues, you could resolve them from your own angle. But finger pointing, I can't say every point here, you know, when you mention no man in seeing. Amen.
Amen.
God bless you.
Amen.
God bless you so much with knowledge. I pray that this knowledge, this we shared, has been a blessing. Our friends on Facebook, I'm sure most of our Facebook people commented somehow, even though our link was going on and off near there. God bless you so much. Our prayer is that may God open our minds, may God open our understanding. May God bless us. I want to give Eva, since you have some small time, share something small and pray for us. Why?
Oh, please, I beg. Please finish your praying. Let's finish your praying. I'm sorry.
I thought I was going to pray for us. And the one Kazakh into your mom, Payamaya, no, May God bless you. May God bless you. God show a lot of goodness to you. My prayer is that when you're otumi buama conflict resolve it. So that we'll, within ourselves, resolve conflict before they escalate. Or give us the courage to take the right steps to be able to resolve conflict. May God bless you. May God bless you. May God make his face to shine upon you. May God give you peace. May God strengthen you. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you so much for being here.